There's something nobody warns you about when you get older. Not your doctor, not your friends, not even the people sitting across from you at your own kitchen table. They warn you about your heart, your bones, your blood pressure. They remind you to take your medication, to eat well, to sleep enough. But nobody warns you about this. Nobody looks you in the eye and says, the people you love the most could take everything from you. And they'll do it while you're still alive, still watching, still believing they never would. My name is Dorothy. I'm 81 years old, and 3 years ago, I had $200,000 in my savings account. Money I had spent 40 years building. Money I had protected through Richard's illness, through the recession, through every hard year life threw at me. Money I had promised myself would keep me safe until the very end. Today that account has $23,000 in it. I didn't lose it to the stock market. I didn't lose it to medical bills. I didn't lose it to a scammer calling from overseas, pretending to be my grandchild. I gave it to my children, slowly, lovingly, willingly, every single time they asked. And I am standing here today telling you this because nobody told me. Nobody sat me down and explained what I'm about to explain to you. Nobody gave me the 5 warnings that could have saved everything I spent my life building. So I'm going to give them to you because you deserve to hear this before it's too late, before your account looks like mine, before you're sitting in your kitchen at 81, wondering how you're going to pay for your own care when the time comes. If you have children who ask you for money, if you have children who make you feel guilty for saying no, if you have children who tell you they'll pay you back, that it's just this once, that you have more than enough, that you should want to help your own family, you need to hear all 5 of these before you open your purse one more time. My youngest son, Thomas, came to me first. He was 44, going through a divorce. Said he needed $15,000 just to get through the legal fees, just to get on his feet. Said he'd pay me back within a year. He was my baby. I remembered bringing him home from the hospital. I remembered teaching him to ride a bicycle. I remembered every scraped knee, every broken heart, every hard moment I had walked him through. So I gave him the money. He never paid it back, not $1. And when I gently brought it up 8 months later, he looked at me with this tired expression and said, "Mom, I'm still getting back on my feet. I thought you understood that." I didn't bring it up again. That was the beginning. And that moment, that single moment of silence when I decided not to push, not to ask again, not to make my son uncomfortable, that moment is what opened the door to everything that followed. The first truth is the hardest one. Your children see your savings as their inheritance. They just want it early. I know that sounds cruel. I know it feels wrong to think about your own children that way. But I need you to understand what is happening beneath the surface of every request, every emergency, every, "Mom, I really need your help right now." When your child asks you for money, they are doing the math. They already know approximately what you have. They've made assumptions about what you'll need for your own care. And they've decided somewhere in the back of their minds that the rest belongs to them, eventually, anyway. So giving it now feels logical to them, feels almost generous, like they're saving you the trouble of figuring out how to divide it later. My neighbor Frances found this out the hard way. Her daughter Rachel asked for $30,000 to start a small business. Frances gave it without hesitation. 18 months later, the business had failed. Frances asked Rachel about repayment. Rachel said, "Mom, I thought that was basically my share of what you were leaving us anyway. Michael got help with his house down payment. I needed this. I thought we were even." Frances had never offered Michael anything. He had never asked. Rachel had simply invented a story in her own mind that justified taking $30,000 from her elderly mother and feeling no obligation to return it. That is the first truth. Know it before you open your wallet. The second truth nearly destroyed my relationship with my daughter. Saying no makes you the villain every single time. My daughter Susan asked me for money 4 separate times in 2 years. Car repairs, rent when her hours were cut, a medical bill her insurance hadn't covered, her daughter's school trip. The first 3 times I said yes. The 4th time I said no. I was gentle. I explained I needed to be careful. I said I loved her and I was sorry. She didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. When she finally called, she didn't apologize. She said she had been hurt. Said she didn't understand why I was treating her differently than her brother. Said she thought I was punishing her for something. Said she had needed me and I had let her down. I had given her $27,000 over 2 years. And the one time I said no, I had let her down. This is what nobody prepares you for. The moment you say no, the previous yeses disappear. They don't count. They aren't remembered with gratitude. They become the baseline, the expectation, the thing you were supposed to do. And the no becomes the betrayal. If you cannot emotionally survive being called selfish by your own child, you will never be able to protect your savings. That is the second truth. The third truth came from my doctor. I had a routine appointment 2 years ago. My physician asked how I was managing financially, whether I had enough set aside for care needs as I got older. I told her I had some savings, but had helped my children quite a bit recently. She put down her pen and looked at me directly. She said, "Dorothy, I need you to understand something. The cost of assisted living in this country averages between $4,000 and $7,000 per month. Memory care is higher. In-home nursing care is higher still. If you need any level of consistent care in your final years, and you don't have the funds to pay for it, your options become very limited very quickly." I asked what happened to women who ran out of money. She said, "Oh, they depend entirely on their children, and that dependency is not always comfortable or dignified." I drove home and sat in my driveway for a long time. I had given my children money so they wouldn't struggle. And in doing so, I had created a situation where I might spend my final years depending on their willingness to care for me. The money you protect today is not selfishness. It is the guarantee of your own dignity tomorrow. That is the third truth, and it should frighten you enough to hold firm. The fourth truth came from a woman I met at my church. Her name was Gloria. 76 years old, sharp, funny, warm. She had 5 children and had spent her entire retirement quietly helping each of them whenever they asked. By the time I met her, she had nothing left. She wasn't dramatic about it. She just said it plainly one afternoon over tea. I have $4,000 in my account. I have a house that needs a new roof. And I have 5 children who love me very much, but cannot afford to help me right now. I asked if she regretted giving the money. She thought about it for a long moment. Then she said, I regret believing that generosity creates security. It doesn't. I gave because I thought it would build something, a closeness, a safety net. I thought if I gave to them, they would be there for me. But that's not how it works. They took what I gave and they built their own lives with it, which is what they were supposed to do. But I'm not in those lives the way I imagined I would be. She paused. Love doesn't come back as money. It just doesn't. Your children love you, but love will not pay for your prescriptions. Love will not cover your heating bill in January. Love will not get you the care you need when your body starts to fail. Money does that. Your money, the money you are giving away right now because you believe love works like a bank account. That is the 4th truth. The 5th truth is the one that finally changed everything for me. I was at home one evening doing the math on what I had left, trying to figure out how long it would last at my current rate of expenses. My hands were shaking a little, not from age, from fear. My phone rang. It was Thomas. He needed help again. A different problem, a different number, the same voice. Mom, I really need you right now. And I sat there holding the phone, and for the first time I asked myself a question I had never asked before. If I needed $15,000 right now, would Thomas give it to me? I knew the answer immediately, not because Thomas is a bad person, not because he doesn't love me, but because he doesn't have it, because his life is stretched thin, because he is 44 years old with his own pressures and his own fears and his own family to worry about. He would feel terrible. He would want to help. He would probably cry. But he couldn't. And I realized in that moment that I had spent 3 years transferring my security to people who could not transfer it back. I had been pouring water into cups that had no bottoms, believing that when I was thirsty, those same cups would fill me. They couldn't, not because they didn't want to, because you cannot give what you don't have. I told Thomas I couldn't help this time. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Okay, that was it. Okay." The world didn't end. He didn't disappear. He found another way, the way people find another way when they have no other option. And I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Safe. I wrote all of this down. Everything I learned too late. Everything I wish someone had told me when I still had time to protect what I'd built. My daughter Susan thinks I should keep it private, says it makes the family look bad, says people will judge her and Thomas and the others. But women write to me, women who are 68 and 72 and 77, standing at the edge of the same decisions I made, feeling the same guilt, hearing the same requests, opening the same purse over and over because nobody ever told them they were allowed to say no. So I'm telling you now, you are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect what you built. You are allowed to choose your own security over someone else's comfort, even if that someone is your child, especially if that someone is your child, because they have time to recover from a no. You may not. Protect your money, protect your future, protect yourself. I'll be here if you want to sit with me again, still learning, still standing, still entirely my own. Take care of yourself, whatever that means to you.